Have you ever felt the sting of disrespect? Not just a casual slight, but a deep, burning insult that lingers in your mind, echoing in the silence of your thoughts. It comes in many forms: a dismissive glance, a mocking laugh, a betrayal that cuts like a blade. At that moment, something inside you shifts. You feel the instinct to react, to strike back, to prove your worth. But the question is, how do you respond in a way that makes them regret ever underestimating you? The weak lash out in anger, the foolish seek revenge. But the wise? The wise make their enemies think, make them question their actions, make them look at themselves and wither under the weight of their own choices. That is power. That is control. And that is what we are going to master today. The ancient Stoics, men who stood unshaken in the face of the world's greatest trials, knew the secret to making others regret their disrespect. They understood that true dominance is never loud. It does not beg for recognition. It is a silent force, an unshakable presence that demands respect without ever needing to ask for it. Today, I will give you 6 strategies, 6 ironclad principles that will ensure you never again feel powerless in the face of disrespect. 6 strategies that will not only make them regret ever crossing you, but will transform you into a man so formidable, so untouchable, that disrespect will no longer even reach you. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Every like, subscribe helps us continue our mission of sharing knowledge. And leave a comment below and share your opinion on these strategies, or tell me which one resonates with you the most. Ready to unlock more wisdom? Let's get started. Strategy 1: the art of silent dominance. There is a moment right after someone disrespects you when they wait for your reaction. It's almost instinctive, like throwing a stone into a lake and expecting ripples. They expect anger. They expect an outburst. They expect something that confirms their words or actions have affected you. And that, wisdom seekers, is where you hold your first and greatest weapon: silence. Picture this. A man insults you in front of others. He laughs, expecting you to react, to fight, to defend, to stumble over your words. But instead, you look at him with an unreadable expression. You do not smile, you do not frown, you do not flinch. You let his words hang in the air, suffocating in their own insignificance. And in that silence, something terrifying happens. He begins to doubt himself. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What does this mean? It means that power lies in the refusal to stoop to another man's level. It means that when someone shows disrespect, the worst thing you can do is prove them right by acting weak or emotional. A lion does not roar at every barking dog. A king does not argue with a beggar on the street. The more unaffected you appear, the more their words lose power. They expect you to break. Instead, you stand unshaken, unmoved, and that alone makes them regret underestimating you. True dominance is silent. It is the man in the room whose presence alone demands respect. It is the one who does not need to explain himself because his actions already speak louder than any insult thrown his way. Now, let's go deeper. What happens when you remain silent after an insult? The person who disrespected you begins to feel uneasy. At first, they may laugh it off, pretending it doesn't matter, but in their mind, questions begin to form. Why isn't he reacting? Did I go too far? Does he know something I don't? And then something even more powerful happens. Others begin to notice. Those watching from the sidelines start seeing the situation differently. They see a fool trying to provoke a man who refuses to be provoked. They see desperation on one side and quiet confidence on the other. The balance of power shifts. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, said, "A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand." Disrespect, then, is just a tool. It has no power unless you hand it to the one wielding it. If you refuse to engage, if you refuse to give their words weight, the weapon becomes useless. So, wisdom seekers, the next time someone disrespects you, try this. Look at them. Hold their gaze. Let silence stretch between you like an invisible battlefield. And when the moment passes, turn away as if their words were nothing more than the wind, heard but never worth stopping for. That is the art of silent dominance. That is how you make them regret ever doubting you. Strategy 2. The power of absence. There's a peculiar truth about human nature. People only start to value what they no longer have access to. The moment you become scarce, your presence becomes significant. The moment you withdraw, your worth is questioned. And the moment you leave them in silence, they begin to hear their own thoughts louder than ever before. When someone disrespects you, their intention is to assert dominance, to place themselves above you, to make you feel less. But what happens when, instead of reacting with anger or trying to prove yourself, you simply remove yourself? What happens when you become unreachable? Imagine a man who mocks you, thinking little of your presence. He believes you will always be there, always within reach, always available for his amusement. But then, you are gone. Your energy is withdrawn. Your attention, once freely given, is now absent. He calls, but there is no answer. He looks, but you are nowhere to be found. And then it starts, the discomfort. The silence left in your wake becomes a mirror, forcing him to reflect. Why did he leave? Why is he unbothered? He does not realize it yet, but he has already lost something. He has lost access. Epictetus, a great Stoic thinker, said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." This means that the moment you engage, the moment you try to defend yourself against disrespect, you have already given them control. But when you remove yourself, when you vanish from their space, their conversations, their world, that is when they feel your presence the most, through your absence. Nothing torments the mind more than an unfinished battle. When you disappear without explanation, without closure, without reaction, they are left to fight their own thoughts. They wonder if they miscalculated, if they underestimated you, if they have made a mistake. And here's the beauty of it. The more they search for you, the more they think about you. The more they think about you, the more power you hold over them. Think of a king who suddenly stops speaking to one of his subjects. The subject may have been arrogant before, thinking himself important, believing he could say whatever he wanted. But when the king withdraws his attention, the subject begins to crumble. Did I lose favor? Have I overstepped? The king says nothing, and yet in his silence he controls the entire game. So, wisdom seekers, when someone disrespects you, do not argue, do not explain, do not fight for their approval. Instead, vanish. Let your absence remind them of your worth. Let them feel the emptiness where your presence once was. And when they finally understand their mistake, when they come searching for you, remember this: a king does not grant audience to a fool who once mocked him. That is the power of absence. That is how you make them regret ever disrespecting you. Strategy 3. The unbreakable frame. There is a truth that weak men fail to understand. Respect is not something you demand. It is something you command through the strength of your presence. It is not in your words, nor in your threats, but in the unwavering way you carry yourself. The world does not respect the man who bends to every force, who changes with every opinion, who adjusts his beliefs for the comfort of others. No, respect belongs to the man who stands firm, the man with an unbreakable frame. What is a frame? It is not just posture, not just confidence. It is the invisible force that defines how you experience the world. It is your rules, your values, your self-worth. It is the energy that others feel when they enter your space. And the moment someone disrespects you, they are testing that frame, looking for cracks, searching for weakness. But what happens when they find none? Imagine a man who insults you, who mocks your ideas, who tries to shake your sense of self. Most men will react. They will defend, they will explain, they will try to convince the other person to see their worth. But the man with an unbreakable frame, he does not flinch. He does not lower himself to seek validation. He does not allow another man's words to dictate his value. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the foundation of an unbreakable frame. No one, not your enemies, not your friends, not the entire world, should have the power to shake your sense of who you are. When you own this truth, you become untouchable. Now understand this. A weak frame is obvious. It is in the man who becomes defensive at the slightest insult. It is in the man who explains himself when he does not need to. It is in the man who seeks approval instead of walking his own path. When you carry a weak frame, you invite disrespect. Why? Because people test what seems unstable. They push what seems like it can be moved. But when they push against you and find an immovable force, they rethink their position. Picture a mountain in a storm. The winds howl, the rains crash, but the mountain does not move. It does not complain. It does not explain itself to the wind. It simply is. That is how you must be. When someone tries to pull you into an argument, you remain calm. When someone questions your worth, you do not justify, you show through your actions. And here is the secret. When a man cannot break you, when his words, his judgments, his games do nothing to shake you, he begins to feel powerless. He realizes that his attempts to control you have failed. And then something incredible happens. Respect replaces mockery. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." The man with an unbreakable frame is free from the control of others. He does not seek revenge because he does not feel the need to. He does not lower himself to petty fights because he knows that real power is in mastery over oneself. So wisdom seekers, the next time someone disrespects you, do not let your emotions betray you. Do not argue, do not defend, do not seek to prove yourself. Simply become the mountain. And in time, those who sought to shake you will stand in awe of the force they could not move. That is the unbreakable frame. That is how you make them regret ever underestimating you. Strategy 4. The calculated rise. There is a reason why the most powerful men in history did not respond to insults with words. They responded with results. They understood that the greatest form of revenge is not anger, not retaliation, but elevation. The man who disrespects you today must one day look up and realize that he is no longer on your level. Most men, when insulted, waste their energy in arguments, in petty battles, in trying to prove something to those who do not even matter. But the wise man, he does not engage, he does not seek validation. Instead, he focuses on the one thing that truly matters, his rise. Picture this. A man disrespects you, mocks you, laughs at you. He sees you as small, insignificant. But instead of reacting, instead of wasting even a second on him, you silently turn inward and begin to build. You sharpen your mind, you strengthen your body, you refine your skills, and as time passes, something happens. While he remains in the same place, unchanged, unremarkable, you ascend, and one day he sees it. He sees that the man he once mocked now stands above him, untouchable, unreachable. And in that moment, regret floods his mind, because he realizes that he wasted his time on mockery while you used yours on mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And what is the opposite of those who insult, those who belittle, those who throw disrespect at others? It is the man who builds, the man who rises, the man who becomes so great that their words become meaningless. Now, understand this. Disrespect is often a test. The world wants to see if you will break, if you will crumble under pressure, if you will drown in your emotions. But when you respond with growth, you send a different message. You show that nothing, not words, not opinions, not insults, has the power to stop you. That is a force more terrifying than any argument, more powerful than any revenge. Seneca once said, "Throw me to the wolves, and I will return leading the pack." This is the mindset of a man who understands the calculated rise. He does not fear opposition. He does not seek immediate validation. He simply moves forward, knowing that every insult, every doubt, every disrespectful moment is just fuel for his evolution. Think about history's greatest figures, men who were laughed at, doubted, ridiculed. They did not waste their breath on arguments. They did not fight battles of words. They became undeniable. And when they reached the top, those who had once disrespected them were left in silence. Their mockery turned to shame. So, wisdom seekers, the next time someone underestimates you, do not waste your breath proving them wrong. Instead, let time do the talking. Elevate yourself so far above them that their words become distant echoes, barely remembered, completely powerless. Because in the end, the man who rises is the man who wins. That is the calculated rise. That is how you make them regret ever disrespecting you. Strategy 5. The controlled chaos. There is a dangerous power that only a few men understand, the ability to control chaos, to unleash it only when necessary, and to make others fear the storm that you keep restrained. Most men either suppress their fire entirely, becoming weak and passive, or they let it consume them, becoming reckless and impulsive. But the truly formidable man, he walks the fine line between peace and destruction, always in control, never at the mercy of his emotions. When someone disrespects you, they assume you are either harmless or predictable. They expect weakness or they expect an outburst. Both reactions give them control. Weakness invites more disrespect, and emotional outbursts make you appear unstable. But when they sense controlled chaos within you, an untapped force that you choose not to unleash, their entire perception shifts. Suddenly, you are not an easy target. Suddenly, they must think twice before disrespecting you again. Picture this. A man mocks you in front of others, expecting either your submission or your rage. But instead, you give him something else. A cold, unreadable presence. Your body language is calm, but your eyes, they hold something deeper, something he cannot quite decipher. He senses that behind your silence, behind your restraint, there is a force that he does not want to awaken. And in that moment, he begins to feel something unexpected, hesitation. This is the power of controlled chaos. You do not react emotionally, but you also do not allow disrespect to go unnoticed. You make it clear without words that you are capable of destruction, but you choose not to engage. And that choice is what makes you terrifying. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And this is the secret. True power is not in striking back. It is in knowing you can, but choosing when and how. The most dangerous men are not the loud ones, not the ones who react to every insult. The most dangerous men are those who can sit in silence while others test their limits, knowing full well that if the moment ever came, they could end it in an instant. This is why the most respected leaders, warriors, and thinkers throughout history did not seek conflict, but they also never avoided it when necessary. They moved with precision, always aware of their own strength, but never wasting it on meaningless battles. They understood that when you reveal your fire too soon, people stop fearing it. But when you keep it controlled, its presence alone commands respect. Think of the lion that does not need to roar to remind the jungle of its dominance. Think of the swordsman who keeps his blade sheathed, yet everyone knows what he is capable of. This is how you must be. When disrespect comes, do not suppress your power, but do not waste it either. Instead, let them feel it, silent, restrained, but always present. So, wisdom seekers, the next time someone crosses the line, remember this. You do not need to prove anything. Your power speaks for itself. A storm does not announce its arrival. It is simply felt. And when they sense your controlled chaos, they will know they should have never disrespected you in the first place. That is controlled chaos. That is how you make them regret ever underestimating you. Strategy 6. The indifference that destroys. There is no punishment more severe, no revenge more absolute than indifference. To be ignored, to be unacknowledged, to be seen as insignificant, this is the deepest wound you can inflict upon those who seek to diminish you. The man who insults you, who disrespects you, wants a reaction. He wants to feel powerful, to believe that his words or actions can shake you, that he holds even the smallest place in your mind. But when you respond with absolute indifference, when you make it clear that he is not even worthy of your attention, you shatter his illusion of significance. Nothing haunts a man more than realizing that he is invisible to someone he desperately wanted to affect. The greatest form of revenge is not anger, not retaliation, but to live as if they never existed. Imagine a man who speaks against you, expecting you to justify yourself. He wants you to explain, to defend, to engage. He waits for a reaction. Perhaps anger, perhaps pain, perhaps insecurity. But instead, he receives nothing. You do not argue, you do not acknowledge, you do not even recognize his existence. It is as if his words, his presence, his entire being do not matter. And this, more than anything, will consume him. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always have the power to have no opinion." This is the essence of true strength. A weak man must respond, must prove himself, must convince others of his worth. But the strong man, the Stoic man, does not explain, does not argue, does not even notice. He understands that to engage is to validate, and to ignore is to destroy. Now consider this. Why do people insult others? Why do they disrespect? Because they seek reaction. They want to feel superior. They want to feed their ego. But when their words hit a wall of pure indifference, when they see that you are unaffected, that you are unmoved, they are left with only one realization: they have no power over you. Seneca once said, "A great mind is not affected by insult." It is not pride that keeps a strong man from reacting. It is understanding. Understanding that the moment you react, you lower yourself to their level. The moment you argue, you grant them authority over your emotions. But when you act as if they do not exist, you strip them of all power. This is why the most powerful men in history did not waste their time on petty conflicts. They did not engage in meaningless battles. They remained unbothered, focused entirely on their own path. And those who once sought to diminish them, they faded into irrelevance, consumed by their own insignificance. Picture a king walking through a crowded marketplace. A beggar shouts insults, hoping for attention, hoping for a reaction. Does the king stop? Does he argue? No, he does not even hear him. The beggar's words are lost in the wind, meaningless, forgotten. And in that moment, it is not the king who is lost. It is the beggar who now realizes that he never mattered in the first place. So, wisdom seekers, when someone disrespects you, do not lower yourself to their world. Do not argue. Do not explain. Do not give them the satisfaction of knowing they have touched your mind in any way. Instead, walk forward as if they were never there. Because true power is not in proving yourself to others. It is in making them realize that they were never even part of your reality. That is the indifference that destroys. That is how you make them regret ever underestimating you.